Hello, everyone.
What's going on, Chelsea?
Well, Brian, I have some studio updates. I felt like your story teaser was a challenge. The way you worded that was like, we'll see. Chelsea probably hasn't updated anything.
Well, the last episode, episode 5, was setting up, going over making a studio. What was the title of it? I want to make sure I'm consistent so I don't get yelled at.
I think it was Build the Studio.
Build the studio.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of stepping through not only Chelsea putting together a few different things within her office, her studio office there, but then anybody else that is curious about setting up a studio and the type of gear that Chelsea and I both have or testing out in our own podcast studio or live studio, however you want to call it. And yes, on the teaser for today's episode, which is our midweek episode, our production planning meeting episode, I simply stated that we'll find out if Chelsea even did anything to her office
Yes.
afterwards.
And I did. I'm like holding my position. I added a light, which you can't see the impact of it yet because I don't have the whole studio light. And I also added a light that shines on the tree. So if I had all my blinds closed, which I think is what I should do for this during the day recordings,
Right.
and had my lighting on, I did add the two lights, which I shared with Brian so we can put in the show notes after. No guarantees that they're good. I'm giving y'all what I'm testing. And I switched my overhead light so it has white and orange in hopes that I'll look less sunburned. So for our Friday show, I'm pretty excited. I'll have all these fancy things going.
So that's what I was kind of wondering, especially with, we were talking having a studio, like a set studio within your house. It's a place that you can basically set everything up how you want it and get a consistent look each time. Now, you're a little different in a sense that yours is your spare bedroom. When you have guests come over, you may have to change some things around. So, functionality that's going to have to change. But for other people that have or that are fortunate to have maybe a room in their house, they can just set it how they want. They can get a consistent look for every episode that they do if that's what you're going for. And we talked about keeping it simple also and just using your cell phone, and you can definitely do that, and then that way you have the flexibility to go wherever, and your studio is wherever you set your camera down.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I'm
Yeah.
impressed that you got all this stuff done. Now, were you scrambling 5 minutes before the show to
No,
put this
so
all up just to prove me wrong, or?
I had a meeting right before the show, so couldn't actually. I was scrambling this morning before my meeting started to get them up, and I just wanted to get it organized. I am just remembering though, speaking of this being a multifunction room, this will be used as an in-law suite for our show Friday. So it'll have to be the following Friday that will get the full effect. But I did install some lights because I really saw the takeaway from that. And for anyone who hasn't watched yet, watch our last show, but as Brian was sharing, highlighting different points in the room. So when I was on and my face was finally lit up beautifully because we got my overhead light set during the show, the bookshelf looked very sad. And so I was excited to install this. I have another one highlighting the tree. We'll see how those look. I can move them around as needed. You can also get more, they're pretty on the cheap end just because they're what I'm comfortable with, at least for the next few months. And then one day could switch them because they'd work sort of in any pantry. They're pantry lights.
Well, so to let you know, you sent me the link to those, and I added those to our
Good.
episode notes from Build the Studio. So if
Good.
you're wanting to see all of the details and the actual items that we talked about within both of our studios, some of them are the same, some are different. All the details that we have are listed there in the show notes with a link, so you can go check them out, take a look, and see if it'll work for you or not. And for the most part, like Chelsea said, like the lights that she's using now, like the one overhead that she has that you're seeing now, Whether or not she recommends it long term, we'll find out. And I'm sure Chelsea will be pretty honest about it. It's not like she cut a deal with
No,
some company. How much were those lights, by the way?
I think they were like $15. That's why I went with them. Keeping it really low key, low commitment, and I can use them in other ways if this doesn't end up being the long term use. But I wanted to like see how I felt about the full effect. I will say, since our show, um, I've been editing video that I previously recorded. Great, Amanda will appreciate this, and I look awful. Like it's so bad. And so I'm very excited now that I have my overhead ring light. And I think it was Elise who helped with the placement of that. So thank you. And Amanda, I don't think you will regret it. I'm pretty excited to have it going.
Well, I don't know necessarily. Is Amanda referring to the big 18-inch light, or is she talking
Oh,
about she ordered the clip-on light for the laptop, where you can? Because Amanda, if you follow her lives that she does, she's all over the place. She's out by her shed. She's out in the garden, inside the shed, in her uh, kitchen sometimes. So maybe hers is more set up for a clip-on portable light.
I think she did the big one. Get it. Yeah, the
Not
big
the clip
one.
on.
The everyone should definitely rewatch the episode for this. So I couldn't conceptualize the big one. Brian said buy it, and I was like, sure, I'll just listen to Brian blindly. But I was like, where the heck does this thing go? This is ridiculous. So in the live, we have dual video. So Amanda, we accomplished the dual video for you. And if you look at Brian's second camera, his placement, I was like, oh, like I had no idea. And so it's like horizontally kind of facing down versus having this big shining sun in front of you. And
Right.
so mine very similarly is up in the corner facing down. It's not a sun. I look towards y'all. I'm not blinded. And this is, like a sun, I guess.
Yeah, we talked about all the different reasons why you would want to move the light around. Uh, as far as you were describing having the big 18-inch light. I had lifted mine up and pointed it down simply because so now I can wear my glasses as we're dealing with this. You had mentioned with your clip on before, when the light is right there by the camera that you're looking into, you have this pinpoint light shining right in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the great thing about having, a set studio also, is that you can adjust and get it to where you like it and just leave it, and then you can start cranking out shows, as opposed to each time you're kind of setting up to where, where's the sun at? Okay, what's in my background? All this stuff. But again, there's trade-offs to every which way you do it. We're
Mm-hmm.
showing you how to just set up more of a set and forget, with the exception of Chelsea's studio that she has to
Full purpose.
multifunction when people come over.
Yeah. I will say that other thing I've learned in this part of the setup, and Brian was kind of alluding to this on our live, but you'll see my cord dangling in space in the background. I need to
You're not going to see
buy.
that when your lights are off at night, when you have the
Yeah.
studio looking like the studio. You're not going to see small details like that. You can
Oh,
kind
I'm
of see
gonna
a little bit
fix
of
that
mine.
anyway. I can't deal with that. Where's your cord?
My cord's right there on the edge of the video, and
Oh.
it's come into play now simply because I had to readjust my setting just a bit, but that's all fine tuning stuff that I can do later on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to the point to where when you're running your studio lights and everything set, you're going to have all of your regular room lights off.
Yep.
So you're starting out with a black room, and then that's when the key pieces of everything kind of comes together. The only exception on mine, during the day, I do have a large window on the side over here that I try to block out as much light, or
Yep.
else if I don't do that, all of this light you see behind me, the way it's set up, gets washed out, and it doesn't look as nice.
Yeah. That's
So,
where I am right now. These are 3 windows.
but again, if it's a thing to where if it maybe it's a budget thing for some people, and you need the light, the sunlight coming through windows, and window light is gorgeous usually on us, right? Indirect window light is great. um you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So
But I do recommend the cable clips. I'm finding a different extension cord, and that's what I've been doing as well is just rearranging with extension cords and cable clips and zip ties because I really like all of my cables very clean. So I have the ring light set up. The other thing I've done is, zip tied up all the extra cables now that it is where it's going to live. And then I use the clips so that everything's straight on the wall. And so that is driving me insane. Even if it's not seen in production, that's going to go away.
E- all the
So
little things bother different people, right? I mean,
yeah.
it would bother me. Like I can see my things now just because again I had to shift my camera just a touch, so it bothers me a little bit, but not. I'm learning to rank all of my problems, and the chords here are like way down the list compared to the show looking and sounding awful as the show goes on because I have a shitty computer. But
Back to the computer.
yeah,
Um,
well,
in terms of critiquing the show,
yeah. So
I
let's
will
talk about
say,
this our midweek episodes. Let's just
Mhm.
in case people were to be like, okay, well, what's the schedule here? What are we doing? Our midweek episodes, we decided that during the day we catch maybe a different audience. It's a different vibe. We're not drinking or anything, and we kind
Shot
of
for
look
yourself.
we look back on the episode we just did, kind of critique it, see if there's some things that we want to carry over.
Mhm.
Maybe we like that episode and we want to change it a little bit down the road and do more things like it if we decide to do a show after our 24 episodes. Or we say, that was fun, but we did it and we'll just let it go. And
Mhm.
so we look back on an episode, and then the second half of our show, we will basically come up with our idea of what we're going to do for the weekend. I'm kind of just referring to those as our performance shows.
Yep.
So a little more planning for those. We actually do an idea or a skit or something, and it's a little more fun, I think. It's at night. You got the box wine going. Chelsea's got her $40 bottle thing going, and we have fun. And then these I think are just a little more laid back. I don't stress out about having to, get everything perfect and planned out. So I like these episodes because we can just toss it out there, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
So let's talk about the last episode.
Yeah. So I shared in starting it and even pitching the idea for it and it getting chosen that it felt selfish. It still feels that way for me. The episode was incredibly functional and practical, and I love a function and form feng shui. So for those who haven't watched, I moved my entire desk, which is a 6 foot wide wooden desk. I moved all of the basic facets of my office. I placed my light. And so, just in terms of function, I was glad I had the opportunity to get a lot done. So, we were on for longer than we'd like. We were on for an hour and 45.
Right.
But I did everything. Like my studio was essentially set. So, yeah, I scrambled to hook that up before our call because I felt challenged. But other than that, it was pretty set on our call. So I've been able to do zip tying cables and stuff in my free time because my studio is pretty set up. So I loved it for that fact.
Well, I think we've kind of stated before, we take for granted sometimes we get going with this project that we're doing, trying to come up with a podcast idea that at the end of the 24 episodes, Chelsea and I determine whether or not we're going to continue with it and make it an actual show or just say, hey, that was a nice run. But as we get going with certain things, like just even having a live episode like this, we take for granted that some people are like, how do you guys do that? Like, what's the setup of it? And that's the thing that when I see certain things like that, whether I'm just cruising through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, the content captures me, but then I'm always kind of wondering, like, how do they do that? Like, what camera is he using there? And I wonder, is that a big ring light there? How does he doing the lighting and stuff? So you and I being at two different stages to where I'm not saying that I have any more information, like I know what I'm doing. I'm just like 6 months ahead of where Chelsea's at. And then Chelsea may be 6 months ahead of maybe where you are if you're thinking about wanting to do a live show, set up a studio, any of that stuff.
Yeah. So I thought that was incredibly helpful. and Amanda mentioned dual video was so helpful in her comment here. I don't think we could have done it without the dual video. I just think it'd be so hard to sort of like metaphorically describe, like even now describing where my ring light is confusing, but I'm hoping it's more of a teaser to watch the real live that we did. But yeah, I think the dual video allowed us to really pull the curtain and like let people into what was really going on.
Yeah, so we had Chelsea. I think you staged your camera or your phone you used as a secondary camera back behind you on your bookshelf or it's not a bookshelf, it's like a bed or something, right? You said
it's a Murphy bed.
A Murphy bed. I've never heard that term before, but it's a bed. I always
Really?
refer to it as a bookshelf. And then I had my phone on a tripod about 90 degrees from where this camera here is, and it was just, and they're both just showing a different angle than what everybody sees, and so it visually you're able to see where the lights are, how many screens I'm using, Chelsea's room and what she's dealing with, and where why she couldn't just move her desk. You said it's actually like installed, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not installed. It's just 6 feet long. It's just a very heavy plank of wood.
Right. So I like that type of episode, because I think it's also helping other people that may be in our shoes that have a creative bone in their body, and they're like, the social media thing is fine, it's fun, but I'm kind of interested in doing something like, live show or a podcast, whether it's solo with somebody else or a group of people. And if we can help motivate other people to just jump in the pool and just try it. I mean, you and I, we keep referring to the fact that we don't even know each other. We may be going on 7 months of Chelsea and I actually like just knowing of each other. And I was fortunate that you were like, fuck it, yeah, I'll do a trial run of a show. I think I kind of surprised you when you realized it was 24 episodes, but
It was actually Julie during one of our lives. I was like, 24 episodes? Sure, it's nothing. And she was like, that's 6 months. I was like, this is a long engagement.
But I think that was before we had hammered out some of the details to where we could actually get 2 shows done a week, which at first maybe that sounded like that's a lot of time and effort, and it kind of is. But something like this, where it's just middle of the day, we get all of our work done beforehand, and then we can just say, hey, look, an hour, and let's go through. And this is the fun part also, is the experimentation of what you and I can try to do. I mean, we've got a blank whiteboard of, well what are we going to do? And that's the show.
Yeah. Before we go to our actually not so blank whiteboard that we're using.
It's not blank anymore, but.
What would we do this episode again?
Specifically the studio setup? I think we would. I mean, I don't think it's a recurring like every few months, but maybe if we were looking long term, every year or something, if we were to change up our look or studio or come up with a much better idea of how to do certain things, I can see us doing a breakdown type episode of that, because I think it's helpful not only to you and I going over it, because it helped me as I was trying to explain certain things, kind of understand what I have set up here, and just explaining it to you, and then you take that information and do what you want with it. I think we would.
Yeah. I was trying to think how, because now my studio is set up, but I agree. I think it could even just be, I haven't changed the setup in 6 months, and the update is I'm still loving it. Or I got this fun new toy and I want to show everyone. But I think building the studio, and, Elise just said the behind the scenes stuff is fun to see in a comment. And I agree with that. Like, let's let the audience in, open up a little bit. Like we're not just two talking heads. There's a whole room behind me. So,
And that kind of episode just maybe falls under, if we categorize it as pulling the curtain
mm-hmm.
behind the show, to where maybe it's not
Mm,
just about the studio, but it's maybe going more in depth on how do we prep somebody like Castle, who came on and co-hosted a couple episodes ago. How do you go about getting people to come on your show? Well,
yep.
we can make a show on that. Pull the curtains behind getting other people involved with your show. So maybe that is something we can put on our whiteboard, to where the category is pulling the curtains, and
Mm-hmm.
then one is our studio setup, and then
Yep.
another one is something else, and then every so often we hit something within that category. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm taking notes as you're speaking. I like it. I'm adding it to our. We actually have a whiteboard, sort of.
Do you have it up? You want to
Yeah, you want me to
throw it up
share?
there, and then yeah, might as well have everybody else look at it while we're doing it. Gardening on the Prairie is saying the behind the scenes stuff is fun to see.
See.
I always refer to it as behind the scenes BTS also, but then I have to think there's a huge Korean K-pop fans out there, and every time I say BTS, there's always like one person's like, "Ooh, who's your favorite BTS group?"
Nice.
All right, so Chelsea has our whiteboard up. Oh,
We're calling it
Amanda,
pulling the curtain. Something about that.
something like that. I mean, we can change it up, but that's just something off the top of my head. And then while you're
I did
writing that
not
down,
figure out how to lock in the exposure on my Mac camera, but full disclosure, I didn't even try. So I didn't try because the first rule was I needed the lights and I set those up right before this. So I will follow Brian's exact instructions. My mother-in-law is coming tonight. I have people coming. So this will become a guest room until Monday or Tuesday of next week. So by the time we do our, not the next night show, but the second to the next night show, I will be able to test
see, I
exposure
knew
mode.
Chelsea wasn't. I mean, I just figured Chelsea was just going to be throwing it all together right after she saw my teaser. And she's like, man, I
I know
haven't done
one.
anything for The Office. I've got to go do something. And sure enough,
Oh.
just about every episode in the last couple weeks, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute to showtime, and then 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minutes after. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like doing this, just waiting. And then all of a sudden, Chelsea's video pops into my thing, and then she's all like, just like laughing. She's like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, I can't. So what we do for our night shows, which is incredibly valuable, and I should just start doing it, is we're going to start the show 15 minutes later than I say I'm available. In my family, we call this wagon burner time, which is my maiden name. And we all run on wagon burner time. And so 15 minutes is actually a good track record. My mother growing up, we would tell her like 2 hours. My aunt who's staying with me tomorrow night, like you got to give her 2 solid hours. Like, hey, it starts at 4 and it actually starts at 6 and they'll roll up at like 5:30.
Yeah, so add that into the fact that I like to be kind of early. So, like today, again, I got here 15 minutes early, and that gives me time to get the show populated with the banners and everything, which is, I mean, there's nothing else Chelsea can do about that. But I'm getting everything done, making sure my camera gear, I've got a whole bunch of extra stuff that I have to make sure that is on. My lights in the back have to be turned on. And then finally I get set with about 5 minutes to go. And then it's literally just this for like 10 minutes until Chelsea decides to show up. And I'm like,
Oh. What I have to do is test myself. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm also making notes on the locking the exposure comments. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, I
yeah,
do think I need an app from my minimal research I did while we were live last time. I think that's accurate at least.
yeah. And I think that, and just for people that are wondering what we're talking about there, to, when we say lock her exposure for her Mac, she uses her laptop for her camera. And so the thing with the Mac camera, as with most basic kind of cameras that people use, it's on an automatic setting. So what it's doing, it's taking a reading of the entire screen, and then it's saying, okay, I've got this reading and everything looks kind of dark, so I'm gonna I'm going to expose it brighter. And then if it looks brighter, then the camera's going to say, well, let's make it darker. So that's why when Chelsea's moving around a little bit, it's either getting more light or it's getting darker, and that's why it's kind of going back and forth.
Yeah. I do think I am going to purchase a camera. So maybe that'll be a good update we do on one of these midday shows
Yeah.
is the other piece. The thing that sold me that Brian said on our last episode is that I can make my background seem closer. And the reality is this office, that's the distance it is. I'm hopeful the lights will help with that too. And then eventually I'll probably switch rooms as we expand our family and how we use the house. And at that point, I'm going to be even further away. So Friday, I'll be in my bedroom, which is the other room I use as an office. And so you'll get to see how far away that space is. So yes, Mac's not ideal, Amanda, but I don't even know if I'm going to hack it. I think I'm just going to buy a webcam. They're not ridiculous. And I record so much for my life. So we'll see.
All right. So that's the reviewing of our last episode.
Is it behind the curtain what we're talking about? It's not move the curtain. I think you say behind the curtain. Is that what's the phrase, the colloquial?
I'm up for anything. I just said it because it was off the top of my head.
Go away. I think it's called behind the curtain. If anyone knows, what's the colloquial phrase here? And that is our new show category, which honestly, I think we were calling business stuff. How to feel comfortable talking in front of a camera, practice business strategies, how to make a podcast better. I think I may move these over, Brian.
Sure. However you think you want to organize it.
Did these all sound like behind the curtain topics?
Yeah, it's either behind the curtains or we can throw all this under the business.
Well, I like behind the curtain better as a name. Also, I was wrong. Now I've messed up our consistency. It was building the studio.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, sorry.
See, I changed the banner
I
as
know,
we were
I
talking
know. I
about
saw
it,
you do
and
that.
then I went back to build. I was like, oh, she's gonna be proud of me for.
I was proud of you. I messed it up. It's my fault.
All goes back to the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain.
Yes, so does behind the curtain. Thank you, Elise. There we go. Okay, so these are our current categories and topic ideas. And I added what we were just discussing. If anyone ever sees me look like I'm not paying attention and or I'm typing, it's because I am. I'm the note taker.
We're all good at something when we come to the table here. I'm not a good note taker, and I'm not good at organizing things. And Chelsea appears to be really good at this stuff.
Yeah, I got a Miro board. I want to make a proposition for our next episode, which
Hey,
I
by
think
the
we're
way,
talking. Yeah.
hold that thought. If you guys are watching or listening, how is the audio okay right now between Chelsea and I, volume wise? I'm hearing a few pops on my end, but I think I can't be picky.
Really? I don't have my fancy mic though. Sorry. So.
Hopefully the audio sounds okay. Usually I'm a little lighter than Chelsea, but anyways, if you guys just let us know in the comments, we don't have to stop the show waiting for it. So go ahead and what you were talking about. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm thinking a silly one, a silly episode. Not that this was a serious episode, right? But this was a functional episode. So I'm thinking let's just change it up and make it a little more silly. So I'm kind of moving away from personal host stories and community topics and maybe moving away from what we think and suggesting we go in the pop culture variety show category, maybe the variety show category.
This is so fun seeing it like this. I mean, it is like we're playing Jeopardy a little bit. Let's move to a different category. I'll take silly shit for 300. And I agree. I mean, totally changing it up. I mean, this is all an experimentation and having fun between the both of us. I think that sounds good to me. So silly stuff. So what do we have as far as some options so far? And Danielle says everything sounds fine.
Good. Apparently, you're closer in volume than usual. I don't know how we could test this, but I have a theory. Well, not a theory, a sort of proven fact that I'm very loud. And so I'm curious if it has nothing to do with the mics and if this is just real life coming through.
Yeah, but I think you can kind of tell, if my levels are a little bit softer. I mean, as long as we're in the ballpark. I mean, there was a couple times early on, a previous episodes where when I went back to edit, I could tell I'm a little softer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to, with all of the gear that we have, you and I have, we talked about this. The more gear you add to your production, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot more things that could go wrong that you really need to fine tune and be on top of, and find out why they work the way they do, or maybe why they're not working.
Yep.
So,
Um, bef- Before we pick a new, just so everybody has context, we're talking Friday at our normal 8:15 p Eastern, 7:15 p Central time. Is that still okay with you, Brian?
are these standard times, or are these Wagenbrenner times? I'm just confused. Now I've got to pay attention to Eastern, Central, Standard, Wagenbrenner.
No. We're going to join at 8 because you always like to join 15 minutes early. The show starts at 8:15. So if I say I'm joining at 8, I'll be on by 8:15. That's the Wagner winner calculation.
But I
So
I do need you on early so we can, especially on the performance ones.
I've been on early on all of them except the studio setup one because I was setting up the studio.
Right.
And today, no, 8 o'clock
So
is when we
Friday,
get on.
so Friday for sure we're looking good because I'm looking. I can
Okay.
do Friday.
Cool. Let's do Friday because I know it's also Easter weekend. We're celebrating Passover, so Friday's ideal.
7:15 Central Time Friday night.
Correct. So audience, I'm pitching we do something sillier. Brian, you seem open to that. And I put us in these two categories, but in reality, we could pull silly out of several categories.
Okay.
I just think moving away from sort of like digging deeper wigs, personal opinions, like let's stay in the lighthearted. The world's going to shit in the background. Let's keep it fun.
Okay.
Thoughts?
So that sounds good to me. I mean, I love kind of changing it up, and something that, I may not. Again, we're planning this days before, and it's fun to kind of see how it's going to unfold, and whether it's a disaster or it actually works out. I think either way, people would hopefully be entertained
Mm-hmm.
by either being entertained by legit stuff, or that it just all goes to shit. So, what options do we have?
If we are in the variety show category, we have improv night, complete this lyric game, which is not spelled correctly, party episode, undefined, karaoke, unclear technically how that would work, picking topics out of a hat unseen prior to the episode, never have I ever, hidden talents. I think pop culture could also be silly. Of course, Star Wars, The Office. Trying to think if any others look silly and not too serious. I mean, spill the tea should be silly, hypothetically. I don't know what that would look like. Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A.
What was that?
It was like a this versus that episode.
This versus that? Okay.
Yeah.
I honestly, I kind of pushed for the last episode, so I don't mind you if you're feeling something. If you want to narrow it down and pick something, or narrow it down to a couple, and then we have everybody weigh in on what we should do. I still would love at some point. I don't think we're ready yet to do the karaoke one, because I think there's some things that you and I need to figure out how that's going to work.
Yeah.
We may have to have like a tester episode before the test episode.
I think for that one, the figuring out was we just can't do it together. So like everyone should use their own YouTube or their own something playing music, probably YouTube playing the music. I just don't know how that would work. But like if I have my own music, I can sing to it. Y'all can hear it and it'll sound the same. Verse, you can't play the music for everyone. I think that's the.
Well, we'll have to figure that out. But I'll roll that one out for Friday, just because I think there's a few more things we have to figure out for there.
Too much.
So what's speaking to you for Friday
I'm open. I'm trying to decide if I can rule anything else out. We could try a little variety episode and do a combo. My question is like, is any of this enough to like fill? Maybe we call it a party episode and we just combine a few things. Because are any of those things enough to fill a time slot? Versus if we have like 3 topics.
Yeah, I think no matter what topic or number of topics, like if we picked one, our tendency is to go over time anyways.
That's true.
We drag stuff out, which it's just we're trying to keep it within a consistent like 1 hour for the episodes, but sometimes we just get caught up in some things. I would vote maybe to stick to one, so it's a specific kind of a tighter theme that can be marketed.
Okay.
And then if we end early, we end early. But I don't see us ending like, after 30 minutes. I mean, I'm sure that we get into something and it'll be an hour and a half long no matter what.
Okay. I'm going to rule out The Office because I've not seen the OG Office.
Okay.
We could do Star Wars follow-up, but I feel like we've done too much of that. So I would vote, not in any particular order, the things that I think would be easy to do that are just in the silly, lighthearted category. I don't know, we would spill the tea on, so I'm going to skip that one. I also don't know what party episode means, so I'm going to skip that too.
So Julie is saying she would like to see a this or that holiday themed. Do you like turkey or ham?
Ooh,
for example.
I want to add this or that too.
The this or that could be interesting.
Do categories. It is Good Friday. I always forget because thinking about Passover. The non-Jesus version.
I wouldn't even know what people are doing on a Good Friday. It's Friday to me. So whatever this or that we're doing. And also I just to toss in, no matter or regardless of what we end up choosing, maybe we also consider something to where if people are watching at the time, they can take part in it also. So if it's a this or that, whether or not you and I are coming up with specific this or that questions, and then people can give us some that we have to answer as well.
Yep. Mario Brothers comes out. The How They Made Mario Brothers, there's a podcast. I don't think it's a How It's Made. It's very, very good as a side note, Elise. Yes, I'll find it and we can put it in the call notes. These aren't called call notes. This isn't a business meeting. We can put it in the call notes for our conference. Thank you all for joining.
Yeah, well, it's consistent wording. Maybe we need to, maybe we carry over some of your business acumen.
It's so boring. No, I need to learn to switch mindsets. Okay, I vote a variety show silly topic. We have one for this or that. I like this versus that because it's low work as well. The other one I'm leaning towards would maybe be an improv night. So if I were to put these in like a priority order, I'd probably rank these two. Anyone else? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Brian, thoughts, preferences?
Guardian on the Prairie says, let's circle back on that.
I'll find it for you. I'll find it for you.
What would we do on an improv night?
I would need to figure that out. So maybe we should wait on that one.
So, I mean, some of this is going to, you are probably a little more social than I am. I mean, 20 years ago, I was probably doing stuff with friends and other couples and having a great old time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like an improv game or something. I don't know. So if some of these are something that you are getting from like hanging out with your friends, you're going to have to be the one to explain it because I don't know any of it. So I'm up for anything.
Okay, so there's for anyone who lives near Atlanta, Dad's Garage is an improv comedy place. And every time I go, I'm always like, this looks so fun. I would love to be able to do improv. So my hope for that one has nothing to do with anything other than my weird creative brain, was that I could find some kind of like how to do improv. Like you and I could sort of fail through the instructions together. Like together, neither of us having any expertise in this category other than that I watch a lot of improv. We could learn to do improv live. That would be my hope.
So was this based off of the clip that we showed early on in one of the episodes where it was Liam Neeson, Ricky Gervais, and Stephen Merchant, and then they're like,
Yes.
okay,
That must be. Yes, that's where I was like, "Oh my god, this is like number one rule of improv.
okay,
It's so good." Yeah, that's where that came from. Yeah.
I can, yeah, so I can do that, or however we think of this or that could go. Like an improv thing would be we draw a situation, and then you and I, boom, we have to act that out, and then whoever breaks first loses, or
Yeah, so yes, that'd be a really good role. I'm hoping also we could find just like start by going through basic rules of improv, and then it probably whoever breaks and or whoever breaks any of those rules, and then we'd need the audience, because this is improv, we need the audience to like give us a scenario. So I had to do a little research to find a little bit of structure, but can pitch the structure live if we agree to the structure. Yeah, I agree. Like,
okay, so let's move improv to another night then. So we
okay,
we rolled that
too
out.
much work. Let's go with this versus that then.
Okay, this versus that for Friday.
And for this versus that, I think both of us come up with some this versus that's, our own lists, and then also anyone planning to join us Friday, plan to come for some, and hopefully we don't have to use too many of our lists because we get to go pretty organic.
So maybe you and I come up with backup 10 this or that's that either I want to ask of you and you want to ask of me.
Mm-hmm.
And those are always fun because then you get into the conversation of, I think with like the Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes, you and I kind of did that a couple episodes ago.
I
And
don't know if we did that one yet. I don't remember the
we talked
answer.
about it because I was like, I usually don't eat Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I forgot. Yes.
And it's just because I don't think, but I'm not making any particular statement by not eating Chick-fil-A. But my thing is, Popeyes is by far better than Chick-fil-A.
I'm not making any statement. I'm just saying that it's by far better.
Just out of taste. There's nothing else from not going to Chick-fil-A.
No statement.
But I think you're a big Chick-fil-A person, so then I was like, that's how we were talking about it. But
from Atlanta, of course, I'm a Chick-fil-A.
This or that. That's why I think if we do that, we'll more than fill the time.
Yeah, let's do that one. Let's each bring 10, maybe a lot. Let's each bring like 5 to 10, like somewhere between
if
5
nobody
to 10.
shows up to watch, we're going to need 10. So we
might
as well come up with 10, but rank it. So just in case, if we don't have anybody, we'll go through all 10 of ours each. And then if we do have people on watching and submit this or that during that time, we can at least just do a couple of ours, and then at least they're prioritized where I'm like, I know I want to ask Chelsea this.
I'm ready. I like it. Okay. I can definitely do that. 10 ranked, this versus that's. I put a link in the private chat to the podcast I was mentioning about the history of Mario Brothers and Nintendo. Okay. If you can share it for Elise, can we comment or no? And Julie, bring all these this versus that restaurants, this versus that holidays.
You want me to post the link? Are you not able to put the link in the comments?
I can't post.
Really?
I can read. There we go. If you want to, at least that's the episode on Mario Brothers. Brian and I obviously will not be watching the opening night, as we will be joking around here.
So, Guarding on the Prairie, I only ever seem to want Chick-fil-A on Sundays when they're not open.
This is the classic problem. Can't stop it.
I don't mind them being closed on Sundays because that's the only time that they're not causing traffic issues going into Home Depot. They are, in my area, they kind of share the same drive through to get to Home Depot. And of course, on the weekends, everybody, especially when it's nice out, we're all running to Home Depot, but their traffic going to Chick-fil-A, because they're so popular here, winds around and extends out onto the highway, and it blocks everybody
This
to get
is
their damn
why
chicken.
Brian doesn't like
That's
Chick-fil-A
part of it.
because of the
Yes.
Home Depot congestion.
Anything that puts me out of my comfort zone, I'm not going to like.
Yeah, we'll bring the Canadian, this versus that. Julie, I love it. Oh, Chick-fil-A sauce. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna expand past food because of our current chat. My head is going towards food for this or that, but I'm going to expand.
So you and I will come up with our own 10 that we want to ask each other, and then anybody that joins us Friday
Mm-hmm.
will come up with their own and ask. And I'm going to put the challenge out to anybody that watches the live Friday. Come up with a this or that you don't think that Chelsea and I will be able to answer. I want some juicy stuff. Because I kind of thought when Castle was asking us some of the questions so you and I can get to know each other, prior to really knowing who Castle was at the time, I didn't know where some of those questions could go. Like, I didn't know anything about Castle.
That's what we have and never have I ever. This was overlooked.
Let's not introduce that just yet, because then that's going to get me. I've got to focus on one thing or I'm going to be not good for the rest of this episode.
Okay, but you just
So
give me an idea that I'm going to write it down.
Perfect. So I challenge you guys. I challenge you to come Friday to our live with some this or that's that will make Chelsea blush, that'll make Chelsea reconsider doing the game. Maybe
Brian is so sure he's embarrassable, like unembarrassable. I don't know how you say that, but we've got to figure this out.
I think that you have more that you would be like, I'm not. I think you would do it off the record on some things, but that's what we're gonna find out.
I'm excited. I'm ready for it. I gotta brainstorm my list, so I'm ready though.
So come up with this or that you want to hear Chelsea and I try to answer on Friday. And then do you think each one of us should hold a pass to where we can, if we wanted to opt out and be like, I got to use my pass? Or we have to do something. Maybe we have to chug something.
So I'm drinking beer, not wine. Yeah, I also think we could do points.
Because there should be some kind of a cost associated with not answering.
Well, winning. Let's do winning. I mean, we could do chug situation, but also like winning the category.
Like we have people vote
who has
on who
the best
answered
answer.
It the best.
Yeah.
I like that when we did the dating stuff.
Yeah, and if we're not going to answer it, and at least I think he means embarrassment. So like what you don't want to answer because you're embarrassed. But I also do like I can't answer because I don't know. Like, who knows? Maybe you present something and I just like legitimately don't know what they are. That would be pretty good. I could see that happening.
But you answer in a way that hopefully garners you some points.
Yeah,
and then and then if there's 3 people watching and giving us the this or that, we just let them decide. Okay, well, who won that answer, or who won that this or that, and then we keep track that way. But I do think if there is a pass, there has to be there. Let's give each other a pass, and if we have to do that, there has to be some cost associated with not answering, because there may be. I'll be honest. There may be a couple questions that I just probably can't answer, and I'll tell you off the air what that would include a little bit.
I think let's go into this. I would say let's have the audience choose who answered the question better. And I'd be curious to see, like, if I chose to pass, but your answer was so bad that, like, I still win.
You still won, right? I think that sounds good, and it's an easy game. It's fun, and everybody can kind of participate in it.
Perfect.
And I'm looking forward to not only answering, but to coming up with my own. Like, it could go either way for me, as far as if we have a bunch of people show up, I'll be happy about it, because I'm like, oh, we're doing a live show with people there. And then if nobody shows up, I'm going to be like, I'll be excited because I'll be able to get through all 10 of my this or that with you.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to get creative. I'm actually going to go mulch a bed and that'll make me creative.
So this will be the first episode that we've done to where we come in on time, under an hour, which is good. But this, again, this is all these shows that we do are kind of behind the scenes in the sense that you're watching two people put something together, planning out an episode, organizing how things go. This is what everybody, if you're working with somebody else on a project, you have to do.
Hmm.
And there's several, I think you and I come with a different skill set that complements each other. Like I said before, I'm not very organized. I need somebody that can get organized, that can multitask and do a bunch of different things. And I'm very just like boom, one in, one out. That's all I can do. And everything's a mess. I'm not good at organizing.
Well, note taking. My beautiful Miro board. Thank you, Miro. This message was sponsored by. No, it wasn't. Um, there we go. There's our organization.
That's pretty cool. If you guys, Chelsea turned me on to this app here, and so I can go in and interact with her within this note taking thing. I try not to mess around or change things too much in there. But it's a great way to organize and work together on the side there. And then just a side note, I updated your Google Drive with the pictures and everything. I made a couple extra
Oh, I owe you
folders.
photos. I owe you photos. I will get to that.
So you can look and see how I organized it. It'll make sense to you, but that way I know which pictures I've used of yours and which one we haven't. What I'm talking about is for the thumbnails that we use that you guys see for advertising and stuff for the show, the two heads between Chelsea and I, we just take random pictures throughout the week. Chelsea, I think, did a bunch of hers all at one time at the beginning, and I've kind of gone through most of them. So I just need her to take some more pictures of her
Mm-hmm.
just a well lit area. It doesn't have to be in the studio, it could be outside, but just to where her face is well lit and she gives me different expressions. And then just the way our thumbnail is designed, you do if you look into the right and look into the left, and that just gives me flexibility when I put the thumbnails together. So that's what we're talking about here when I need Chelsea to kind of update. So
Yeah. I'd say for even anyone who just wants to do more organized Instagram lives, like you don't realize how many small details and little work goes into this until you start doing it. I had an idea because of other projects I've done, but yeah, you got to make sure you have all the details. Thankfully, Brian is, I mean, you do most of the editing and work, if not all of it. So very appreciative for that. If my huge asset value add is this Miro board. I'll do
Chelsea
some
needs us.
selfies, my fiddly fig. Um, so we remove the background from the thumbnails, so we have our sort of like branding designed backgrounds. But yes, this was a high point of contention on our last live. But this could be a version of a this or that, but you don't cut a fiddly fig is what I'm trying to still educate Brian on. Julie understands. Julie would also not cut her fiddle. It was like
Yeah, we don't know that.
No, I know that. Her and
I
I
don't
have
know
chatted.
about that. We'll see.
She would not. She would not cut her fiddle.
We'll see.
Oh, it's
But
so funny.
yeah, so all the episodes that we do, there's a little bit of behind the scenes there when you're working with somebody else. And if, as with most things in our lives, if we're doing something and it's not fun and you're not enjoying what you're doing, it can get tedious and tiresome. I enjoy doing this, with the exception of the technical problems that drive me insane. And I know everybody's like tired of hearing me out about it. And yes, Julie, I do need to. Julie sent me a link on. It's a where you build your own computer stuff. And so I went through there. I was looking. I was like, oh man, I just don't know if I've got any of the
Oh,
funds yet to do any of that stuff. But it was very helpful to kind of see where computer systems are on the PC side of things. I'm on the Mac side, but it doesn't mean that I have to stay on the Mac side. But it's fun for me. It's fun for me to do all of this, and I find the time. I make time to do this throughout the days of the week because it's just I want to do it. It gets
Yeah.
me off the doing power washing the siding like this week or fixing the dryer which went down or fixing whatever,
Oh,
it's just one of those things. So,
like,
all right.
let's do it. This or that. Rank our top 10, and we'll see y'all Friday at 8:15, 7:15 Central Time, and I will be there on time.
Hey, can we do a teaser in 1 minute? Just do
Yeah.
exactly what you just said, but we'll do it more official. So, all right, Chelsea, Friday night we have our next episode 7.
Yeah, this or that. So excited to have everyone join us. Brian and I are going to rank our top this or that and go through them one by one.
Wow.
Is that short? I
Right to
almost
the
started
point.
getting wordy. Y'all, these teasers, man.
Should I here? Let me run through mine again one more time, and then you run through yours just to give me a couple options, just in
You want me
case.
to say the same thing? Okay, go ahead.
Well, you could say it differently,
All right.
just in case.
All right.
All right, Chelsea. Friday night we have episode 7. Brian and Chelsea make a podcast. What are we doing?
This or that. Brian and I are going to be ranking our top 10 this or that questions and debating between each other if it's this or that.
All right, we'll see you guys Friday night, 7:15 Central Time, right?
Yep. 8:15 Eastern Time, 7:15 Central Time.
Perfect. Oh, I like that one. Okay.
Yeah, that one was better. I was prepared. I was like freaked out with the first one.
Oh, Julie
Yo,
liked
that
it
was
too.
good. I know. We'll get better. I have to remember these teasers are happening in the moment. I'm like, oh.
It's just we might as well get it done here so we don't have to I don't have to get you back on or whatever. So, all right,
Yes.
guys, we are at the end and we will see you on Friday. Be there. Ask us this or that. We're ending the broadcast.
See you Friday.